that.
Huh.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now you can hear me. All right. Technical difficulties. Little layover from 2021. I'm from 2020. We're good to go. All right. Listen. Welcome to Concord Co-op Community Connections. My name is Nazzy. I'm your host this afternoon, and we're chatting with Dr. Wendy Jensen. How are you, Dr. Wendy?
I'm good. How are you? How are you, Nazzy?
I am great now. Dr. Jensen is a house call veterinarian who has practiced homeopath. I can never say this word. Say it with me.
Homeopathy.
Homeopathy.
You got it.
For the past 25 years. Also the author of a book, The Practical Handbook of Veterinary, that word again.
Homeopathy.
Healing our companion animals from inside out, which both introduces veterinarians to the topic, also enables animal lovers to take full advantage of their veterinary care. I like that. And with us always, Director of Development of the Concord Food Co-op and a huge fan of animals, dog lover, cat lover, Mr. Greg Lessard. Happy New Year, Greg.
Oh, Happy New Year to you, Nazzy.
Oh, goodness. So before we get going, how was everybody's New Year? Was it safe? Did you go to bed by 12:01?
Yeah, quieter. I guess I've had quiet New Year's in the past, but it was, again, consistent with that, a quiet New Year's.
Yes. It's more of a thankful one, like people saying Happier New Year now instead of Happy New Year.
That's true. That's very, very true. And I was, we didn't really do much. Typically, I'm a mobile DJ. I do weddings and parties and New Year's Eve bashes. This is the first New Year's Eve that I've been home. I was in bed by 12:01. It was weird. I didn't have any equipment to schlep around, anything.
So true. You didn't have a party to host, did you?
Yep, that's true. But nobody was more confused than my dog. Okay, I have a 13-year-old dog. She's part boxer, and she was kind of confused, like, hey, what's going on? It's New Year's. Why are you here? Which leads us into our subject today: returning to work and leaving your companion at home, pets and CBD. Correct?
Yes. And you know, a lot of people have been. They are working from home right now, and you know, as the COVID pandemic is behind us, as we hopefully this year will be behind us, I think more people will be returning to the workplace. So, you know, it was Wendy's thought to have this as a topic was, what is the impact on our pets? I mean, they have now seen a lot more of us, and will be seeing a lot less of many people in the near future. So. I guess Wendy would like to give us some tips on, you know, how to make that transition, I guess, for our pets. And you know, leading into this, Wendy, I had heard once before that dogs don't have a sense of time. That if you're gone for a day or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that they don't have a sense of the amount of time. But yet, if I leave for an hour. Versus I leave for 2 weeks, the reaction when I return is much, much different. So I have a hard time believing that is true. But now, you know, they're very accustomed to us being around them. And so what transpires from here?
Now, Wendy, before you answer that, let me just interject and say that my dog definitely has a concept of time, especially when it comes to feeding time, because she gets fed at 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. And oh yeah, and she'll be 13 this month, so she talks to us. You know, so they can tell time. Trust me.
Yeah, I think it's more of a matter of the extended time period. Like they're not going to say, "Oh gosh, you've only been gone a half an hour." No matter. You know, usually the greeting is still, "Yay, you're my favorite person. I want you always in my life." You know, but. I think I was being optimistic when I took up this topic. You know, here we are still all at home again. But it is a good idea to prepare your animal if you're going to be suddenly heading out, you know, for 40 hours a week, because they've been used to you being around. And there could be some grieving. There could be some depression. So you might keep in mind that they might need a walk in the middle of the day that they've been used to getting. You might be able to come home maybe for 10 minutes. So that means a whole lot to your dog, your cats. And also you might consider companions for them. If they've been with you for 40 hours, you know, all day, all week, then you might want to consider having another animal to be with them so they're not totally alone. It depends on the animal. So some dogs are happy alone, some cats happy alone, but others like to have at least one other person or animal around. So that's what I was thinking of for the return to work hopeful topic we picked today.
I don't know if we're there yet. We're not quite.
Yeah.
We're not quite. We've got a few months of that. What about a transition process? What about slowly preparing them? Because we still are a few months away from any kind of normal back to work brick and mortar building. Is there a way to kind of slowly get them back into it?
Absolutely. You can take off for a few hours at a time, things that you haven't done before, and just see. You come back, you're going to know how they are when you come back. If they've got that tense, worried look, or the couch has been ripped up and you've only been gone 30 minutes and they never did that before with COVID, then you got a problem. You got to work them into it. You got to look into some homeopathic medicine perhaps to help with the anxiety. So that's a really good suggestion to kind of ease into it.
Now, are dogs more subject to separation anxiety than cats? It just seems like, if you leave for a period of time and come back, then the dog seems to have a much greater reaction than a cat tends to be. I mean, cats, I think, can express it in different ways. They're more likely to tear at your couch, but in your absence to get even. But do cats or dogs feel separation differently?
Well, I think it's a species thing. Just like it's harder to tell when you've got a sick cat often because they'll disguise it. The cat brought in to the clinic for being sick is often in worse shape than the dog because the dog's going to communicate with you more easily. They just know human language better. But cats, they can certainly have trouble being alone. They can be very anxious, and it can be very subtle. Their eyes dilated, they're under the couch, they don't want to come out, they shrink from your hand. Something's wrong. Some cats are much better with company around. Some cats are the ones that come down during a party. They hang out with everybody. So that kind of cat is going to be more noticing when the house is all empty. But they are each one individual, and the species do have some differences. That's true, but cats certainly can feel separation anxiety as well. They're also smaller, so the damage to the house, is going to be less, whereas cats tend to withdraw and get real quiet and not eat when they're not feeling well and they're anxious, whereas dogs can get very destructive.
So I want to go into CBD. And I mean, that seems to be the new buzzword and the new magic drug that humans are taking. Does it work the same way for animals, especially animals that are going to be feeling anxiety over the next few months? Is it going to have the same effect on my dog that it does for me?
Well, I haven't used it because my practice is using just remedies, but in preparation for talking today, I pulled out my Materia Medica, which tells me the symptoms that remedies are helpful for. And I look up hemp, for example, and there's corneal problems, there's trouble with the bowels and the bladder, there's being worse going upstairs, that the patella can luxate, which is a common problem in the little doggies, if the patella luxates going upstairs. So the beauty of using a remedy instead of the actual herb is that it's going to cover the whole animal's issues, not just being anxious. But it is being used in veterinary medicine. I've seen a lot of articles about it on the regular allopathic journals. And just to be clear, it's the non-psychoactive part of the herb. So we're not talking about, getting them high.
Get him stoned.
Exactly. But there's a lot of physical help. It's just that, again, I like to emphasize that it's only going to help the certain things that the herb works for, whereas the remedy covers the greater, broader picture of the whole animal. So if you're looking at homeopathic treatment, you're going to be better off than if you just take this herb for that problem, another herb for another problem, and so forth.
And you were just mentioning CBD, and it doesn't get them high. But what does catnip do? What's in catnip, and does it have negative effects? I mean, an awful lot of people.
It's a good question.
Give their cat catnip to watch it kind of flip out.
It's a stimulant. It's a mild stimulant, and it varies per cat. I don't see an issue with it, though. When I'm giving a remedy, I don't give it the same day they're going to get the catnip. So I consider it like a really strong jolt of caffeine. Really, it's not the same chemical compound. I don't happen to know what that chemical is now, but it's a stimulant and it's mild, especially when it's just the dried herb. It's not been concentrated down for them.
So I have a question. 2020 was a hard year at my house. We did lose one of our dogs. They were litter mates. We had to end very suddenly and shockingly. We ended up putting one of our dogs down. Oh. And this was in August. And they've never been apart. Brother and sister, like I said, litter mates. Going to be 13 this month. They've never been apart. So my question is, when we do go back to work, how do we keep her calm? Because she's never been without a companion. She has never, ever been alone. Luckily, this happened in August. My wife was home. My son was home. A lot of people were home. But eventually, they're not going to be home. Mm-hmm. What's the best recommendation, Doctor?
Well, first of all, I was going to congratulate you on having a boxer mix that old, 13 years old. So I'm sad to hear about the other one, because boxers, that's pretty old for a boxer. So
yeah, I've heard that.
Sorry for your loss. There are remedies in the homeopathic world, pulsatilla, natmur, lycopodium. They can be very helpful for grieving animals. If you see anything now, this would be the time to help her. Her.
So the brother we put down.
Okay, to help her with any grieving that might be happening. If you're not seeing any now, I wouldn't medicate her just because you're leaving, going to work. I'd see what happens. Right. What is she doing? Does she change her habits? Does she change? Does anything physical change? And you've got that whole conglomeration of symptoms, and you can look at the remedy that would fit those. Or, a homeopathic vet can help you with that.
Wendy, I see your book there. Can you talk a little bit about what's in your book? Is you were just talking about some of those remedies. Is that information that somebody would find in your book? So what's in your book?
The book is a guide to help the person working with a homeopathic vet so that you know what you're in for. So when you go there and you spend an hour, usually, you're ready with the information that the vet's going to need. So it's not a self-prescribed book. But it does there's a couple of cases in there from my practice involving grieving animals. I believe they're both dogs. And so it goes through an actual interview, a live interview that I put down verbatim from a couple of clients. So you can see the depth of knowledge that is needed by the homeopath in order to prescribe for your animal. So it's a guide. And I found that the clients of mine that have read it give me much better information, and I do a better job as a result.
Very good.
That's really cool. How can we get a copy of that book and obviously come into your practice? But are you on Amazon? Can we buy it online anywhere?
It's at the co-op.
Okay.
Yes, it's at right at the customer service desk, and also again the co-op has our e-shop. So you can go to the Concord Food Co-op website, and it is the book is available on our e-shop, and you can just get curbside pickup for Wendy's book. If you don't want to go shopping in the store right now, you can. And if you want the information immediately, go into the co-op or order it online and just pick it up at curbside.
Really quick, just before we run out of time, I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about the co-op, and I was hoping you could explain this a little bit better. How do because the members run the co-op, correct? The members are part of the co-op. How does that work? For somebody who doesn't understand how that works.
There's different forms of co-ops in ownership and management. So the way the Concord Food Co-op works is it is owned by 8,000 members, so 8,000 member owners. And basically on significant issues, capital expenditures or something, then every member does get a vote. So it's, you get one membership, one vote on major issues. So, basically, the members get to pick the board of directors. The board of directors gets to pick the general manager. The general manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations. the board basically stays out of day-to-day operations. So it's really the general manager and staff. You know, when the co-op started, it was the membership that was working at the co-op, but now it's basically paid staff that is working at the co-op. But it is in profitable years, any profit would go back to the membership. And so it's different than a corporation in that if it is run by the members, 8,000 owners. And so again, there's significant issues. And the co-op, again, a part of its guiding principles is to be a part of the community, to give back to the community, to educate on wellness and basically local foods, et cetera. And that's what this program does. It is an extension of one of those principles to get out information to the public. And that's what Wendy is doing here today to assist in getting information to the public.
I appreciate it. Excellent. Well, Dr. Wendy Jensen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Oh, and people that want a homeopath, my practice is full, but check out Academy of Veterinary Homeopathy online.
There you go. And Greg Lessard, as always, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Nazzy. Appreciate it.
Good to see you, Greg.
Bye now. See you, Wendy. Thank you.
Bye-bye.